Hello, Boston Books fans. This is Scorp1701, and tonight we are going to be taking a look at the DC Direct / McFarlane Toys Batman the Animated Series Batmobile. Yes, this is the awesome Batman the Animated Series Batmobile that popped up this year on the Target Summer Geek Out event that they have every year. And because Target is now carrying the reissued DC Direct Batman the Animated Series figures, it made sense that they put out the awesome Batmobile. And I am so glad they did, because I missed the opportunity to grab this up in around 2015, 2016 when they initially put it out. But here it is, and taking a look at this awesome item. It is in a very large box. Over here to the left, you have the McFarlane Toys Gold Label sticker. You have Batman the Animated Series with the logo there. You have the Batmobile, and it's telling you that it lights up, and that is going to be so cool. You have the Batmobile here, 12+. Awesome picture of the Batmobile there. On the top of the packaging, you have the DC Direct McFarlane Toys logos over here, Batman the Animated Series logo, the Batmobile. You can see a little bit of inside the Batmobile. That is really cool. Another picture of the Batmobile. Coming around to the side of the box, you just get DC Direct McFarlane Toys Batman the Animated Series, the Batmobile. Coming around to the other side, you pretty much get the same there, and that is really cool. Coming to the bottom of the box, you just got some credits for the box and some instructions and where to put the batteries and an awesome barcode. I'll zoom in on that if that will help you find this toy on the shelf. And finally, coming to the back of the box, ooh, knock over my camera. You can see a lot of awesome product shot of the Batmobile, how it lights up, and some other things. But the pictures aren't really worth 1,000 words when you got a review. So let's go ahead and get this awesome Batmobile out of the box and see for ourselves. And here we have the Batmobile out of the packaging, and it is beautiful. It's huge. It's just everything you really wanted out of the Batman the Animated Series Batmobile. Obviously, it's the first couple seasons of the Batman the Animated Series. When he switched over to the new adventures, they kind of changed up the Batmobile, but this is the original, and this is what I have always wanted. It comes with a collector's card, and we will zoom in on this. Take a look at it. You got the Batmobile there, and Batman the Animated Series logo down at the bottom. Coming around to the back of the card, you do get a little bit of a read up, so let me get some more light on there and zoom in. You can pause the video, read this to your heart's content, but we must be moving onward and outward, and I want to put this Batmobile up on the rack and see what's under the hood. And putting the Batmobile up on the turntable, we will get our measurements. So from the front bumper to the back wing section here, you're looking at an impressive 24 inches. Yes, that is 2 feet of length for this awesome vehicle. And coming from the tire here all the way to the top of the canopy here, you got about 5.5 inches for that particular measurement. Turning it around to the front of this awesome vehicle, from this tire to this tire, you're looking at 8 inches, and it's very similar to that, if not the same, on the back. Now, it does look like it would be a little wider, but I think it's just an optical illusion where how the front here goes out a little bit, but then it comes back in, and you can see it's basically going to be the same width from the bottom. So that's another 8 inches, and that is really cool. That is going to be your measurements for this awesome Batmobile. Taking a look at the Batmobile itself, starting at the side, you do have some nice rubber tires here, and you got some nice gray inserts for the wheels. There isn't a lot of detail on the sides. You do get a little bit of engine detail here. It's done in a nice gray. And coming around, you do get a little bit of an intake valve or whatever this is here that leads back into there. And then you have the back tire. You have the canopy here, which is really nice. You got the black plastic here and the matte for the top section. That is really cool. Coming around to the back, you do get the awesome jet engines there and some lights for tail lights here at the bottom. Not a lot of detail here. You do get some exhaust vents here on the side of the engine, I guess, if that's what that is. I'm not really familiar with parts. All I can tell you is this thing looks awesome. Going around to the other side, you get the same little bit of work there on the hood right here. That is cool. And now coming around to the front of the vehicle, you do get the Batmobile grille, which is done in a nice gray, and then you have some lights here at the front, which are going to be a nice amber yellow. So that is really cool. And again, not a lot of great detail. It is based on a cartoon, so unlike the Keaton Batmobile that we reviewed a few months ago, this is just going to be a standard solid piece, more or less. But it was a cartoon, and that's what I really appreciated about it. Now, turning the vehicle on its side, we can see the bottom of the vehicle. It's very nicely done. You just got a lot of paneling lines, and you can see the tires here. They're very good. A lot of tread in there. I like that. And you can see that there's like axles there. You can make the wheels turn. You got your battery compartment here, so you can put your batteries. It does require 3 AA's if you want to have the batteries handy. And then coming to the back again, just the tires poking out there with the same stripes. So that is really cool. Not much there, but if we turn it back around and we move up to the top and look at the canopy is nicely done. Now, unlike the 89 Batmobile, it does not have a push button to activate the canopy. You're just going to have to push it forward, and it's very loose, so it's not going to be much of an issue to push it forward and backward. So yeah, it's going to be fairly easy to do. So anyway, that will bring us into the cockpit. And as we take a look inside the cockpit, we have some awesome control panels in there. So zooming in real close, you can see first off the nice steering wheel here, and it does move. It goes around 360 degrees, so Batman can have this any way he wants. And it pushes in and out. So as it stands, if it was extended out like it normally is for Batman to use, he wouldn't be able to get into the Batmobile cockpit. So the steering wheel will push forward and lock into place there, so you could put the figure in, and then you have a middle console, which is really cool. A lot of buttons there. Now you can see the gear shifter here. It doesn't move, but it is nicely molded in there. And then you have the second seat where Robin sits, and there's a little dash panel here. Now these are all going to light up, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And coming around to the back of the seats, you see that there's not really much molded in there to like they have headrests or anything. So that is kind of a bummer, but what are you going to do? It's two-seater, so I'm not going to complain about that. But what is interesting about this is if you look down in here, you do see that they do get little seat belts that they can wrap around them, and there's actually a little clip that will clip into this section right here, so you could actually clip them in. So that would be really neat. So anyway, that is what our Batmobile is gonna look like. I think it's cool. There is a lot of cool playability with it, and function looks just like it should from the animated series. So let's get some batteries for this thing and see it go to work in the dark. And now we got our 3 AA batteries inserted. We got the lights turned down a little bit. So let's see this awesome Batmobile light up. Now, to find the switch to activate the lights, you're just gonna move your hand under the passenger side where the front tire is, and then you'll be able to find the switch and then turn it on. And boom, wow, the lights come to life. And this is really cool. Started off at the front, you can see these awesome amber headlights. That is really nice. I love that nice big glow coming around. You do have a little bit of blue glow for the canopy inside the cockpit, and that is really nice. If we push the canopy open, we can see, whoa, it is really bright in there. So I don't know how Batman and Robin are actually gonna be able to drive with all that bright light in their face, but it is really cool. Each of their consoles are lit up. The middle console is lit up. That is really cool. And if you look around, we go back to the back, and we can see, wow, hey, actually, there is headrest for the seats. Now that it's all bright in there, I can actually see that each seat is got a little bit of mold to it, so yay. Sorry I missed that during the initial run through, but it was kind of dark, and that is really cool. And finally, coming around to the back of the Batmobile, we see that it is completely lit up. Wow, that is so gorgeous. You have 6 awesome red lights there, and then you have the amber orange again for the turbine, and that is just cool. Wow, this is an awesome little light up feature, and it's not a lot. It's just 3 sections. This light up feature is very bright, LEDs probably, and it just makes the whole dynamic of the vehicle change. You can play with this thing at night and run it around, and that's going to be the Batmobile's light up feature, which is so cool. But what's going to make it even cooler is when we get some figures in here. Moving on. So the best figures you're going to have for your Batmobile is obviously going to be the DC Direct McFarlane Batman the Animated Series figures that have been releasing at Target lately. And you could probably put more figures in it, but this is the ones that the Batmobile was built for. So we're going to go ahead and put them in and see what they look like. And here you have Batman and Robin inside the Batmobile. It's really nice. They fit in there okay. Batman you're not going to have a problem with because he has a cloth cape. Robin has that soft plastic cape that's kind of stationary, so you're going to have to manipulate him a little bit to get him in there on top of that cape, but in the end it looks okay, and they sit really nice in there. You can bring the steering wheel back up for Batman to hold, and I don't have the seat belts on them now, but you can get those on there if you have the time and the desire to put those on, and that looks really good. And unlike the '89 Keaton Batman Batmobile, the canopy has no problem closing because Batman sits down in there deep enough so his ears aren't going to get in the way, and that is really cool. So let's set the camera down here and let's see what it looks like when we turn the lights off and the Batmobile lights on. And taking a look, you can barely see Batman's head in there on the side, and that is pretty cool. And when we bring the canopy open again, yeah, very bright light for the Cape Crusaders to sit in there and try to drive to, but it's really neat. It lights them up really good. So, you know, you could film stuff. This could be like, have the canopy open and do a deep close-up, and this could be like the inside of the Batmobile. You can't really tell that, you know, you're just filming from the outside, if that's something you like to do with toy photography, but that is really neat. You can see them in there sitting, and that is cool. So I know what you're going to ask next is, what other characters can sit in the Batmobile? Well, let's find out. So your standard 7-inch DC Multiverse figure can get in there, but they can't really sit comfortably to the point where the canopy closes, so you're just gonna take Batman's head off like that if you're so inclined. Or you could have him driving like that stupid George Clooney Batman and Robin Batmobile. That's just, did I say that out loud? Oh my gosh. Okay. But, you know, that is something that you can do if you're so inclined to do it. But if you have a smaller DC Multiverse figure like the Batgirl here, maybe a Robin, then they could fit into the animated series Batmobile Batmobile no problem. And it may be, yeah, she can actually fit there and the canopy goes by, but it is very, very close. So you'll probably have to hunch her back and do the whole number like we did with the Keaton, kind of twist her around and then get her like that in order to close up the canopy. So that is pretty neat if you want to have a smaller DC Multiverse figure in there. Definitely no problem getting your DC Superpowers in there if you want to put them in, but it's going to be a little big for them. I guess that's where the seat belts come in handy. And canopy closes on them, no problem. So that is good if you're interested in what that looks like. And your standard Marvel Legends can fit really nicely in the Batmobile. If Spider-Man wants to take MJ for a ride, and the canopy can go back, and that is very nice. So if you want to kind of have Marvel steal the Batmobile, that can be done. And if you have some NECA Toon Turtles, he could fit in there, but you know, it's not very comfortably, and obviously the canopy will take his head off. So if you had a smaller turtle, I'm sure they could fit in there, like the Mutant Mayhem or the original Turtles. But again, they like to ride with the canopy open, and if that's okay with you, then there you go, have at it. Have Michelangelo get a pizza pickup in Gotham. And if you ever wondered what would happen if the Thundercats came to Gotham and stole the Batmobile, there you go. So Lino does fit in there okay. He does use both of the compartments and he's kind of sitting in the middle. It looks all right. Again, sort of like the one-seater that George Clooney drove in Batman and Robin. And you can't close the canopy without taking off his head. But if you want to leave it open like that, yeah, Lino could be hot rodding around Gotham. Pretty neat. And that's going to be a comparison of other characters that we might try to sneak into the Batmobile. Moving on. And for comparison, here you have the animated Batmobile with the '89 Batmobile. And this is a really cool comparison that a lot of folks, I think, would like to see how these two match up. Now, surprisingly, the animated Batmobile is going to be longer than the '89 Batmobile, and it's going to be a little wider too, which, you know, they were roughly the same price. Of course, with the '89 Batmobile, you did get the Michael Keaton Batman, and he's in here. So, you know, all things considering, though, you got the same money, and the animated one didn't give you a figure, but they gave you electronics. So I'm thinking, if I had my ruthers, I think I'd much rather have electronics than a figure. I don't know. And here's the back of them, so you get a little bit of similarity there with the thrusters and the engines, so that is pretty cool. I always wanted to say that the '89 Batmobile was the inspiration for the animated here, but I could also see some very comic book centralized themes too, so that is pretty neat, and that's going to be your comparison with the '89 Batmobile and the animated. And for comparisons, here you have the animated Batmobile with the Superpowers Batmobile. And obviously the animated Batmobile is going to be a lot bigger because the Superpowers Batmobile is made for smaller figures, but it's still interesting to see the differences between them and the similarities, like the wings on the back are very similar to the wings on the back of the animated, but you know, there's not a lot of similarities because they come out of different eras. Coming around to the back, you can see even the back designs. Here you had a lot of different rockets, and on the animated you just had the one, but then you had the different tail lights here for stickers, and that was still pretty neat. But again, not too much of a comparison when you talk about the scale and size of these two. All right. And for comparison with another popular cartoon show, here we have the animated Batmobile with the real Ghostbusters Ecto-1. And the Batmobile again dwarfs the Ecto-1 in size and scale, even though it's interesting to note that the DC Direct Batman the Animated Series figures weren't much bigger than the real Ghostbusters figures. But still, you can see when it comes to their vehicles, yeah, Batman definitely has the edge over Ecto-1. I still think Ecto-1 could be a little bigger, but that's what we got. All right. And for something a little more comparable in size to the animated Batmobile, here you have the Underground Arsenal Turtle Van. And they both have cool electronics, and they are really, really nice to scale. And they are really big vehicles, so we can kind of try to turn them around to the side so you can see the different comparisons. So we'll get this turned that way and then bring the Batmobile again in here. So yeah, shoot. This may be a really realistic view of size comparison, one for one, that you'd see on the street, because the van does set up high and the Batmobile is kind of low to the ground. Coming around to the back of the Turtle Van and moving the Batmobile around, you can see the Batmobile lit up there and nothing on the back of the Turtle Van, but still, that is some pretty neat comparisons and size scaling. So that's cool. I like that a lot. Closest we've got so far when it comes to anything matching the Batmobile size and girth here, but that may not always be the case. So all right, that is going to be your comparison with the Batmobile and the Turtle Van. And for comparison, here you have the animated Batmobile with the Super 7 Thunder Tank. If you want to say comparison, other than the fact that they're both vehicles, I don't know how similar you can get. One is a attack vehicle and the other is just a transport vehicle. I mean, the Batmobile does have a little bit of weaponry to it, but if it ever came up against the Thunder Tank, it's probably gonna get clobbered. And even though the Batmobile is 24 inches long, the Thunder Tank will edge it out in the back. It's an interesting vehicle comparison if you want to look at it. But again, these two vehicles would probably never be in the same time-space continuum as each other. All right. And finally, for comparison with the animated Batmobile, here you have the Roboson flagship Optimus Prime. And as for scale comparison, well, no, I think Optimus would probably be a little bigger than the Batmobile height-wise. So I think the Batmobile would probably come up to about here if it was realistic. But still, it is a neat little comparison and look at with these two massive vehicles turning Prime around. So there you go, seeing some taillights from both of the vehicles. That is really cool. I love it. So let me get this Batmobile turned around, and of course, since I brought out Roboson Optimus Prime, that we're going to have to do it. Hey, Optimus Prime, transform! That is still cool after all these years. I think it's been like 2 years, I'm not sure, but anyway, let's back him up and see how he looks like by the Batmobile. So there you go, the scale of how Optimus would look like trying to stop the Batmobile, and he'd probably just put his foot on it and crush it. But that is pretty neat. All right, and that is gonna be your vehicle comparisons. Moving on. And this has been the Target exclusive DC Direct McFarlane Toys Gold Label Collection Batman the Animated Series Batmobile. And I am super happy that they decided to re-release this in the Target exclusive Batman the Animated Series line. I remember I wanted this thing back when it first came out in 2015, 2016. For some reason or another, I just couldn't get it. And now, thanks to McFarlane, I had the second opportunity to snag it up at Target, and I am so happy that I did. This was a great vehicle. It is very cool. You have an exact replica of what it looked like in Batman the Animated Series. You have awesome lighting effects on the front, in the back, and in the driver's compartment to highlight the figure's driving. It rolls great. I don't even think I mentioned that, but yeah, this thing just goes crazy with the rubber wheels, and there's really not anything else that you could ask for in a Batmobile. So this has been a great item to review. Now, the only thing I could say was annoying about it is trying to get those seat belts on Batman and Robin. That is a very tight, small area to work with. So I don't know if it's worth the effort, but once you get them on there, I guess it looks okay. And another thing to mention is if you do put the batteries in and you don't use it for a long time, just be aware that batteries left in electronics will sometimes degrade and break open, and it could ruin your Batmobile. So if you're not using it, go ahead and take the batteries out and just put them back in when you want to play around with it. That's just my advice. So if you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series and you collect the first run of the DC Direct figures, or you're collecting the second run, you're gonna want to pick up this Batmobile to fit your Batman and your Robin because it's just great. And if you're looking for it, check out your local Targets or check out Target.com and you'll find it online for approximately $80. So if you are looking for this awesome vehicle, happy hunting. And that's it, guys. That is going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night. And until next time, keep playing.